Hellfire and the Fall of Empire by Jim Webster, who, by the way, go read the comments on the last couple of videos. He's a solid bro. He keeps chiming in and telling me, hey, dope, you're doing it wrong. Get it right. You're selling my game. No, I'm kidding. He's very kind. He's very understanding. He takes me by the hand and he makes me want to be a better wargamer by explaining some of the things that I just didn't quite understand in these rule books. These are great. They're a nice little guide to how you can run your own little empire. Of course, the Fall of Empire. Oh, where's my other books? Let me reach way behind. Here we go. Here we go. Are designed for use with Hellfire, a generic set of 1-300 SF wargame rules, or maybe Hellfire campaigns. It's useful to buy all three of these because there are some gaps in each of these books that helps complete the other one. Okay? I don't want to go full rom-com, but you complete me, Jim. So, with that said, let's take a look at my campaign so far. This is my little corner of the, formerly corner of the Kaisan Empire. The Kaisan Empire has bailed out on us. They have their own problems back home, and we out here on the hinterland planet have been left to our own devices. The Navy is gone, which was keeping these barbarian hordes in check. The Maka, the Popular Front, the Wheelian Supremacy, the Pewca, the Tilian Republic, and the Grey Horde are just some of the 10 barbarian tribes that you might have to deal with in your campaign. These are the 10 cities, the 10 sisters, if you will, and the problem we have before us today. We got two. So the year is 2494, I think? Probably should have researched this. 2949. And in our last episode, last year we beat the ever-living snot out of the Wheelian Supremacy. In our last episode, we realized that in 2949, we generated some conflicts for our little empire. Now, because all the cool kids have left and gone back to the imperial seat, our cities are starting to shrink. Like Hippos here, our capital city, all of the Poindexters, they're bailing out. So the population there is only 11. It used to be 12. I think there's another one of these. It's been several weeks. Here we go. Damascus only has a population of 7. This is an art and cultural center. It's going to be really important. Canatha, see the little factory there, right? Shades of Axis and Allies. That's why I drew it like that. Is one of our industrial centers. And Canatha, in May of 2949, is going to be hit by a Pewca Raid. Now, the Pewca, they're serious barbarians. They're using obsolete weapons. They're riding beast-mounted cavalry, and they are going to be hitting Canatha. They're just trying to do a raid. They're just trying to steal our stuff. Later on in the year, in fact, in August, the Tilian Republic down here sees an opportunity. This little gap here, the Gap of Tilia, they want to take it. They want to seize Damascus. Oh, you guys have people leaving. You're in a very Detroit situation. Population is declining. You got a lot of infrastructure. You're struggling to keep it all together. We're going to try to make Damascus Tilian again. How dare you? And that's a pretty bold move. They haven't brought a whole lot of forces. These are the two combats that we need to deal with today. And as usual, I don't actually have the miniatures that you need to play one of these on the tabletop, so I've been experimenting with a large language model. These are not, I hate the branding for these things. Oh, it's artificial intelligence. No, it's a large language model. It's just statistics and math, and people program it. They're maybe a little bit smarter than you and a lot smarter than me, but they still have their own biases that get plugged in. So I don't put too much faith in these. I wouldn't use them for anything that really matters. But if you have a campaign like this where you're chiefly interested in the spreadsheets and seeing what happens next and just kind of rolling the dice and letting the story play out, they can be a useful additive or adjunct to the hobby. And so that's what we're going to do today. That's really what we're principally going to look at. So we'll start chronologically. We'll take a look at Canatha first. These Pewca come filing in through all of these little mountain passes and the high hills, and we know they're coming. We have a really good intelligence network. We have a really good assassin, the Departmental Assassinorum. Like half of the guys that have come to raid us, mysteriously, their leaders died. They were giving a speech, somewhere in the Rust Belt of the Republic, when crack, crack, crack. But our assassins aren't a bunch of autistic kids that we just let them climb up on a roof. our boys know what they're doing, right? They take the crack shots. We have had a lot of the leaders of these people mysteriously die over the years, which has been great for us because every time we have to fight one of these battles, it costs us money. It's expensive, and we don't like spending money on defense. We'd much rather spend it on, I don't know, the nice things, right? We want to dump it into Damascus. We want to make some art and movies. We want to leave a legacy behind. So let's take a look first at Canatha. Now I did draw Canatha in slightly higher resolution. These two maps are right next to each other. So there's Canatha. It kind of looks a little something like that. So if we maybe this is the better way to look at it. See a little stream that runs up there through Damascus? Southeast portion of our little burgeoning empire, not doing so hot. So you can kind of see I just added some details. I don't know. Well, I do know why I did this. I didn't do this for any real game terms. I just kind of did it for giggles because, it's kind of nice to know that there's a large forest here. Maybe those forces are going to come up out of the forest, and that's where the raiders come from. I don't know. So let's take a look at the notes that I have here, right? So here's Pewca, 4 companies of infantry, 30 bases altogether. I'm actually going to make that 32. We got to go with 8 bases each. And then they have 1 company of cavalry, again, 8 bases, and they're going to raid Canatha in May. So that's what the offenders look like. I'll show you the defenders here. The Canatha, now for the first time ever, we are going to call up 4 companies. Oh, wait. The Canathans have 4 companies. I don't think that's right. Let me look. I think they actually only have 3 companies because remember that a city has half of its forces are available for expeditionary, which I'm not quite sure what that means, to be honest with you. So here's my city board. We'll open up that window. Oh, it's a factory town. It's got a population of 7. It only has 3. Oh, no, it does. Okay. 3 companies of expeditionary militia forces and then 4 companies of militia. So our core defenders are going to be the militia. We call those guys up. And when you call them up, you have to pay, you have to pay these starting costs. But the starting costs are a little bit different depending on what happens in the course of the year. So, for example, if you want to bring up a tank company, it's going to cost you $4,500 for that first year, and then $5,000 for every year after that. Wait, it's this, and then is it 95? This is why I get confused. A tank company is $4,500 plus $500 for the month. No, the first year is a training year, so you go with this number, and that includes all of the equipment and the guys. See, this is what I mean when I say Jim is a little bit loosey-goosey. Raising new units. At this point, you have the issue of whether you're raising for the annual move or for the new unit. Well, we're doing the annual move. Or working through the year month by month. So to ensure that whatever part of the move you're in, you want to pay the same cost, right? In the month that you raise them, you pay the raising cost equipment only. Or in the year when nothing happens to drop you. For the course of the first year, the newly raised unit ends up fighting, you pay them for the entire year. If they don't end up fighting, this wage is assumed to be lost. Oh, okay, I get it. I think I get it now. I think because, so militia are a little bit different because they're assumed to be already existent, right? So what I'm going to do, just to kind of keep things simple and make the math as easy as possible, is my home defense militia. It cost me $50 the first time, and then you know what? I'm just going to pay. I assume they're already militia, right? That's why they're available. So I'm just going to pay 1,500 credits for those guys for the year, and they start training. They're going to be green. They don't have a lot of experience. So that's going to cost me 1,500 credits to call those guys up. Now they're going to get completely shellacked by the raiders. I don't want that to happen. So I'm also going to go ahead and call up, and if I got this right, so the cost for this, I want another mechanized infantry company. Oh, but I only have 3 companies left for the expeditionary force. So I'm going to call this the Canathan First. And the Canathan First company is going to cost me $1,500 plus another $500 per month. Remember, there's 10 months in the financial year. They're like double Europeans. They just take a full month off twice. Kind of. What really happens is in the really cold winter months, December, January, there's nothing going on. So we don't factor that in. It makes the math easy. We like easy. Right, so for our mechanized infantry company, it's going to cost us $6,500 to use them for the year. We're going to be glad to have that. All right, and I don't have, because I only have the 3, I don't have that 4th company to call up a tank company. Now, 3 companies is not, or 4 companies rather, I could probably do 3 in 1 tank, but I'm just going to do the 4 companies of mechanized infantry, right? So that gives me 40 bases. So on the infantry side, I'm looking at about a 20% beef up on those guys, and I have it written down. The full cost for the year, like I said, it's 1,500 plus 5,000. Oh, wait a minute, but you know what? Come to think of it, that's going to be, that's for the home defense militias, 1,500 for the year. That's what it is. Any year your militia fight, you just got to pay that 1,500. And that's, but you know what? That's per company. I've got 4 companies. That's going to set me back 4,500 credits for the year. I'm also going to raise, as I said, this Canatha mechanized. I only have 3 companies of infantry for that. But they are going to be in APCs. They are going to have energy weapons. We spent some big bucks. We produced energy weapons. I want to get grav weapons next, I think. It's going to cost me 4,500 to raise these guys. See, take a look. Mechanized infantry company, 1,500 per. Oh, shoot. So this is wrong, too. Oh, my goodness. There's 4 companies, 1,500. This is actually going to set me back 6,000. I'm glad you guys are here to audit me. We're doing better on audits than the American Defense Network. Okay. The American defense military, right? The boys in the Pentagon, they're really bad at tracking their finances. All those black book projects don't pay for themselves, you know. So as I was saying, mechanized infantry for each company, it's going to cost us 4,500. It's 1,500 per company, so that's 4,500 for the year. But then we have to pay them. Oh my gosh! All right, fine. So that's going to be 5,000 credits for the year. Right, so this defense is going to cost us like 15,000 credits. It's still worth it. This is why we built up a huge reserve, cash reserve, okay? So this is our costs for this. I've already factored in the cost of the defenders. So for the Tillians, let's just finish this one for the Pewca. In order to guarantee that these raiders don't get through, I am going to send 2 units to support them. And if we take a look at my military roster here, what you will find is, the good news is I know those other boys are attacking in August. So I can send the tube artillery and this support recovery battalion and the aircraft squadron to back up my 7 companies of infantry. And it's important to do this because we're not fighting a stand-up battle. We are trying to keep raiders, we're trying to keep the foxes out of the hen house. And that's going to be the real scenario, is the Pewca trying to break through our lines, okay? Now, bear in mind, our mechanized infantry has 10 bases each with flak energy weapons, and they have those 3 wheeled APCs with light armor. So this is pretty good, man. The tube artillery, these guys don't have any artillery. The Pewca don't. They don't have air support. So what I did, as I said, is I went to my trusty computer with the Core i5, 10th generation Intel. I don't know if that's any good. And here's what that looks like for those of you keeping score at home. This is ChatGPT 4o Mini. Again, I don't care what that means. I told it, I need you to run a miniature war game for me. And it pretended to say, I'd be happy. You're not happy. You're just statistics. I need to know what game system you're using, what forces, what game size, what's the objective, what's the table setup. And you don't, Mr. Chatty. So I said, okay, look, we're going to use Jim Webster's Hellfire rule set. And the thing said, it's a nice, fast-paced feel that captures the essence of gritty, small unit combat. Okay, is that right? I mean, I got like multiple battalions here. That's not what I think of when small unit, but whatever. And then it asked me some questions. You know, what game size are we doing? What are the mission objectives? What's the table setup? So I said, okay, Pewca are raiding the city of Canatha, right? Their forces consist of everything I already told you. I'm not going to read this verbatim. It said, great. Okay, it sounds like the Pewca are a primitive or raiding force using light infantry and mounted cavalry focused on hit-and-run tactics. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then it says, okay, here's the mission objective. Well, here's some possible. Slow down, Chatty. What are you doing? I haven't even told you what the Canathan forces are. Already went through all that with you, so I'm not going to read this. But the model says, okay, well, now we got a picture of both sides. And it runs down the list. Yeah, okay, 3 ground attack aircraft. That's what that squadron is. If they leave, I'm going to be in big trouble. And then it talks a little bit about the tactics. So this one is pretty simple. It says, okay, here's some ways we could fight this battle out. Here's some ideas for the table setup. I said, okay, well, hold on there, fella. I said, the battle takes place in the hills south of the city. The Pewca are trying to break through. And I said that because this makes for a more interesting scenario than just a stand-up fight. And I thought, this really is probably what the Pewca are trying to do. We'll take a look before the end of the video at what happens when. But here's the idea, is the Pewca know, you got to think about this. The Pewca know that they don't have the tech. So they're moving in small units. They're kind of infiltrating probably by a lot of different routes and trying to catch us unawares. They know that we've got the advantage. Maybe we have some satellites up there. Maybe we need to research that. I don't know. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest with you. The point is, to make this more of a fair fight, the Pewca, really all they need to do is push through and escape as many of their forces off the southern edge of the table as possible. All right, it's really the northern. It's fine. Oh, that might be why I screwed up here, right? So the Pewca are focused. They just want to get across the table. So now it becomes a game. It's not just a stand-up fight. Now we've actually got an interesting scenario. So given the table setup, what are we looking at? I said, okay, well, and then it goes through a whole lot of stuff, and I'm like, whoa, slow down there, buddy. Oh no, in this case, actually was pretty good, right? I'm like, turn 6, then it's kind of going over strategy. I didn't even read that, to be honest with you. I'm very happy for you, or sorry that happened, bro. Right? We can start the battle. I said, yeah, go ahead and run the first turn. But here's the key here, victory conditions. The Pewca win by getting a significant portion of their forces off the southern edge of the table. Okay, reverse that. Should be northern, but it's fine. We can make that adjustment. For each base of infantry, they score points. If they manage to get at least half their force off the table, it's a solid victory. The more, the better. Now, in our case, the more forces they get off the table, the more economic damage they're going to do to us. The real stakes for us consist of dinero. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run the battle. We're going to find out how many forces they can get through our defensive lines, and we'll assume that our defensive lines hold the bulk of them, but the local police will kind of limit the damage. But what's going to happen is at the end of the year, or maybe going into the next year, our income will be reduced. The more forces get through, the more our income is reduced, right? Maybe we bill ourselves 10,000 credits. I'm not sure. We'll have to go look at the campaign rules, but that's where we're at, right? If we can wipe out half of the attacking units, then we buy ourselves that D6 years of peace, where if the Pewca come up in our annual rating, or annual check for which barbarians are coming at us, no, they don't. So it's kind of like a get out of jail free card for a few years if they come up. That's really what we're looking at when we run this battle. So we started. Would you like to take the first turn? And I'm like, no, you just run the first turn. And he says, okay. So in turn 1, the Pewca begin to advance. The cavalry moves. Well, here's what's great about this is I don't want to spend too much time. So you just come right down to the summary of turn 1. The Pewca have begun their advance. I should warn you, I didn't quality control this summary against what it says up here. It's entirely possible, given the unreliability of these language models, that this contradicts that. I don't care. This is what I'm going with. Pewca begin their advance. The cavalry moves swiftly on the right flank toward the southern edge of the table. Infantry push forward, but they're going slow, taking cover. The Canathans respond with artillery, scoring a hit on the Pewca infantry and causing 1 casualty. The mechanized infantry are holding the center, while the militia are moving forward at a slower pace. Hey, that's pretty good, right? And then for turn 2, yeah, run turns, and this time I'm like, look, just run turns 2 and 3, okay? So you can scroll down, turn 2. The cavalry continue to push toward the southern edge. They're not even fighting, but they've suffered 2 casualties from the artillery. The Canathans score a hit. The artillery scores a hit. They damage another Pewca infantry. The mechanized infantry hold their ground, right? So we're doing good. Run turn 3. The Pewca, the cavalry, are 12 inches from escaping. Well, that's interesting. So the model knows, that it's only going to take 4 turns to get across the table. It must assume we're playing on a 6x4 table. I didn't say that. All I said was, and the nice thing is I can kind of select that so I can see it. And if we scroll back up to the top, it might actually say there's deployments, and I kind of went through this. Okay, given the battle takes place, there's the southern, here we go. The terrain is elevated in some places. Parts of the battlefield are rocky, making it difficult for both sides to move quickly. The southern portion of the table, where the Pewca want to escape, is more open, allowing for faster movement, but also exposing units to fire, and some sparse woodland and scrub can provide cover. Oh, okay, that's great. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. And it doesn't matter, right? Because we're really drilling well down into the resolution here of our campaign. This is probably even a little lower than you need to be. If you're using this set of rules to generate battles for the tabletop, it works great. But, I'm just like, look, just do turn 4, would you? The Pewca are under pressure, but they're not giving up. The cavalry are closing in on their escape. The infantry are still trying to push through. So something interesting happens here. At the end of turn number 4, it says the cavalry escape. They get 1 victory point. Now, the model doesn't know what 1 victory point means. It just knows that's a thing that wargamers say. All right, it's kind of like people on Reddit. Like, I don't know. I just know that's a thing people say. So they say it, and then they assume they sound smart. Despite heavy artillery and airstrikes, the Pewca infantry have moved halfway, 24 inches onto the battlefield. They suffered 5 casualties. The Canathans, haven't really suffered many. We're doing good. And now here I say, go ahead and play out turns 5 and 6. But wait a second. It does turns 5 and 6, and I'm skipping past those for a reason. Because I said, well, hold on. At this point, if you look at where they're at, I said, the cavalry escape, the remaining infantry are getting closer, but are still far from being able to escape. The Pewca infantry have taken 12 casualties. They have very few remaining. I said, okay, well, change the Pewca strategy to preserving their force by retreating. And my thinking was, at the end of turn 6, as we go into turn 7, and I should have told the model this, turn 7, just keep playing, and on turn 7, have the Pewca preserve their force by retreating. So the idea here is that the Pewca aren't stupid. They send in an infantry force to force the defenders to deal with them. And remember, that cavalry unit can sweep around the right side. That means the cavalry can get in, do their raiding, do a little smash and grab, get back out, and then the infantry can reserve. They're not going to completely sacrifice their infantry, right? But the model said, I'm going to revise turn 5. And I was like, I didn't want that, but you know what? I'm just going to go with this. Because I didn't have to take an hour to play out 2 turns of this battle. So this is legit. And I didn't even look at what the results were before, except that they're not great. So now we're back to the fact that the Pewca, right, the infantry are now in a retreating line. One of the companies gets behind the rocks, attempts to create a delay, holding off immediate pursuit by the mechanized infantry. Right? And so if you run through this, we get down to turn 5 summary. The infantry have started their retreat. Wait, but moving back toward the southern edge of the... Oh, boy, right? They've suffered 2 casualties. The artillery hit again, doing 1. Wait a minute. Why are... And I think this is because I got confused, right? Change the... Preserve their force. No, I didn't. The model got confused. It's like, they're retreating? Well, that means they're headed to the south. No, it really doesn't. It just means that... So this is a little weird. They've started their retreat. The Canathans' artillery hits again. So on turn 6, let's just run down to the bottom here. The Pewca are in full retreat. Revised summary. So this is the revision, right, where the Pewca are retreating. They're 12 inches from the southern edge, which I thought they were supposed to be going towards. All right, they're almost within range to escape. They've taken further casualties. 3 more. 1 from the aircraft, 1 from the mechanized infantry, and 1 from the retreat. The Canathans, the artillery missed. The aircraft scored another hit. Right, so victory conditions then to turn 6. The Pewca are in full retreat with 2 companies remaining, 1 behind rocks and cover. They only had 4, so they've taken about 50% casualties. Not really, because the cavalry are doing well. They will escape in the next turn if they can hold their position. They will escape if they can hold their position. See what I mean? It knows the things you're supposed to say, but it kind of lacks context. But I was like, you know what? This is pretty good. Just go ahead and proceed, right? The Canathans on turn number 7, and this is really going to be the end. The cavalry escaped. The infantry escaped. They earned 2 points, and so escape resolution. The Pewcan forces have made it to the southern edge. They've taken heavy casualties and escaped with 2 companies of infantry, preventing a complete rout. All right, what does that mean? That means that the Pewca are still on the board for the year 2950. And that's really what I was looking for, right? They get a final score of 3 victory points, 1 for the cavalry and 2 for the infantry. Not really, because the cavalry are the only ones that got through. But there you go. The Pewca executed a well-timed retreat and preserved their remaining forces by exiting the battlefield. The Canathans inflicted significant casualties, but couldn't prevent them from escaping with the infantry from escaping. They're green. They were just glad to have survived, right? The Canathans scored 5 points for casualties inflicted, 15 bases destroyed. Remember, they had 32. They actually had 40 altogether. So again, it was a Canathan victory, but the model doesn't know what that means in the context of the campaign. So I asked it, hey, how many casualties did the Canathan mechanized infantry suffer? And the answer is none. All right, the mechanized are one of the strongest units. They've been involved in several rounds of combat. And why am I only interested in the mechanized infantry? Because they're still available for the second fight of the year. I'm not going to use them that way. We're going to give them rest, recovery. I think we can handle the rest of it without these guys. And the big thing is they're no longer green. And I don't know if I mentioned that in this video, but I did tell the model that. The mechanized infantry are regulars, but they are green. We get the turn-by-turn breakdown, and yes, they didn't suffer any casualties, and that's fine. And it doesn't really matter, because I have several companies of mobile army surgical hospitals, old Hawkeyes on the job. I can replenish all of my casualties through the course of the year if they only fight the one battle. All right, they're unscathed, maintaining their strength throughout the battle. That's going to be the case both for this fight and for the fight that happens in August, but I'm going to call it quits right here. The one thing I'm going to do is point out that what the actual results of this raid are for Canatha. And to understand that, we have to go back to the rules for raiding. All right, this involves the force hanging about in a city territory, taking anything that isn't nailed down. Each move of raiding, the city will lose 2 points of tax income next year. Well, what does move mean? That means monthly. And because we largely preserved our force, I'm just going to dock myself the 1 month of income. Okay, the raiders do this until they're chased off, which will happen in June. And this is part of the other reason that my mechanized infantry are not going to be available, because they're going to have to spend the rest of the year like helping to rebuild. We're going to go full National Guard, and we're going to try to help repair the damage, right? So that's really what's going to happen. Because they got the one force through, we're going to call it 2 points of tax income. If they had gotten more than just their beast-mounted cavalry, if they had seen a company of infantry, we might have docked ourselves 4. And because I don't have a whole lot of time to get to this, and it takes a while, what I have done to help myself out is I have started 2950. Here are my notes for next year, right? So no Wheelians. I actually made that note for when we play out the 2950 year. Navy's gone, no spare parts. And here's where I'm going to write -2 income from Canatha. Our industry is hurting. And I believe that means that's like 20,000 credits. So this is going to set us back 35,000 credits. That's an expensive raid. We're not going to be able to handle a whole lot of those. But notice that one of the problems we have in our campaign is that as our citizenship goes down and our tax revenue falls, we've already lost a couple of points of tax revenue because the populations have fallen. Our military is getting bigger. So we're having to spend more money to defend when we have less income flowing into the coffers. This is very much an exercise in trying to preserve the center as the edges start to fray and tatter. This may get even worse if we lose the city of Damascus to the Tylian Republic. But we won't know what the results of that are until the next video. One thing I will say, the Hippos, what do we call it? The Hippos Battalion. We have one unit of mechanized infantry that hasn't fought yet. I am going to, because I only have the one unit of tube artillery, May, June, July, that's 3 months. I'm going to retask the artillery and the air unit to Damascus to help defend against these filthy Tylians. Tune in next week when we do the latter half of combat for the year 2949 here in the, I don't know what we call this, the fall of empire, the hippo. Oh, I know what we're calling it. We're calling it the Hippon, the Hippos, named after the capital city, right here on the sunny northern shores. Good surfing all the way around here. In fact, there's probably a little surf village right down here outside of Gadara where all this energy gets channeled in. Like Big Wave Dave, he's got a little house right there. Until next time, I'm praying for you.